Hello everybody and welcome back to Kerbal Space Program, where we are currently in orbit right now, just barely, and Jebediah is going to need to get out and push to bring us back down, because we are not coming back down as of this moment. So the question is, where are we in our orbit? And the answer is, we're not really all that close to the apoapsis, so I'm going to warp to about here, although I do want to check before we do. Okay, we have a science reward available at mission control. Okay, so our crew observation in low orbit, we're not going to transmit that. That's fine. Let's actually head over to mission control real quick. If we have a reward available here, then that's great. We did not attach a science junior and perform an environment survey. I'm not going to accept this yet. This has not happened, and I don't know why that completed. Okay, we're going to go back to our vehicle here, and we're going to deorbit it, and I'm going to grab that after we've actually achieved those rewards. So that is fine. We're going to warp around here to around here. So there we go. We'll just warp our way right on around. Excellent. We're not having any electrical charge drain, so that's good. Because we don't have solar panels on this, I want to point out, or any form of ability to generate power. Okay, so let's have Jeb EVA. Oh wait, before we do that, we need to point retrograde here. Which... apparently our SAS is off. Let's turn that on, and let's just point this retrograde. There we go. So now Jeb is going to EVA, and we can turn on our jetpack. I see that the monoprop did, in fact, get regenerated. So that is good to know. And all we're going to do here is deorbit ourselves. So what do we want in terms of this push? Well, we want to drop our periapsis down. This is technically enough at this point for our periapsis to be recoverable, but this is going to require a lot of aerobrakes. An awful lot of aerobrakes. So we're just going to push ourselves down here, and this should give us enough to get a vacuum optimized engine, which would be enough on its own to get us into orbit easily and have plenty of fuel left over. So that is absolutely wonderful, and I want to bring our periapsis down to ideally like 40 kilometers. Maybe we should try 50, though, since I did note that it feels like there's a lot more drag in KSP2. So maybe we should try 50 and see how that feels. We're down to 60 right now. We are technically suborbital. And to be clear, we probably would have had plenty of fuel to do this as well if our apoapsis wasn't quite so out of control. Our apoapsis is 100 kilometers right now, and it doesn't need to be that. So let's just bring this right on down to 50. That will be absolutely fine. So it's down to 55 at this moment. We've got a fair amount of monoprop yet. This is all looking reasonably good. Of course, getting out and pushing is not ideal, right? There's no doubt about it. Also, note how our apoapsis is going up right now. That's exciting. It's not going up by very much, though, so I'm not too concerned about it. We are at 50 kilometers, almost. We're at 51 kilometers, technically. And... okay, we're going to call that good. So that's 50 kilometers, and now we're going to grab on up here, and we're going to board. So at this point, we should be able to just warp on around until we hit the atmosphere, and let's see how the aerobrake goes here. If I am right, and that my gut tells me correctly that there's a lot more drag, this should be enough to capture us, but in KSP1, this might not be enough. Actually, I'm not 100% sure if this would be enough with the heat shield. In KSP1, heat shields have a lot of drag to them. So I guess we'll just feel this out and see how it goes. I think it's fine. I think we're going to get captured here. I'm just looking at how far away we are from our periapsis and how low it's dropping and how quickly. Yeah, we're going to be okay here. Time to periapsis is almost going up. Okay, so yeah, there's a lot of drag here. Even at 60 kilometers, there's a huge amount of drag. So that is absolutely noted. We're still feeling out how exactly this works, right? So this is fine. No concerns whatsoever. Although I will say this chute is safe to deploy very, very early. I don't think it's actually safe to deploy right now, for the record. We're at basically orbital velocity, only slightly below it, and we've got a plasma sheath going on here. I'm not going to deploy the parachute into a plasma sheath. That's a terrible idea. So we're not going to do that. We are apparently coming down at night, so that's a thing. But I think this is going to be a water landing. It's kind of hard to tell. For one thing, the plasma sheath is kind of blowing out our eyes, and it's hard to see anything else. So that is fine. But we can see there's some land up here for sure, and this is water down here. I'm pretty sure we're going to be coming down in water, but this is quite dark. And YouTube doesn't like dark, so we'll see how that ends up going. We're currently about 30 kilometers up. We're still moving pretty quickly here. 1.6 kilometers per second. But we can see that they've definitely changed the way that the atmosphere is in terms of density at different heights. It's absolutely different. There's no doubt about that. So we're just headed on our way down. We're currently 10 kilometers up. Let's get that chute out. There we go. Chute is out. I pressed space and it didn't happen, but this works. This absolutely works. Okay, so down we come. We were moving pretty quick there until the chute opened, but that's very expected. We're only about 500 meters up, and this is all looking good. So Jeb is going to return from his first successful orbital flight, although he did have to get out and push a couple times. That is absolutely fine. This should give us what we need. So let's bring this on down. There we go. And is there any science that we can do here? Well, maybe. Let's have Jeb EVA, and we'll see if he can actually run the crew observation here. Invalid research location. And run surface survey. I think the surface survey might actually require the science junior. So I think that's why that's not happening. But we'll see. Okay, so this is all absolutely fine. And we are going to recover this vessel. Cool. So we'll head on back to R&D at this point. Beautiful. So now we've got 166 science. That is quite a lot of science, no doubt about that, and we can get a fair amount of things with that. Orbital rocketry is by far our highest priority. That gives us access to the Thumper, which is fine, but more importantly, it gives us the Terrier, and that is incredibly important to us right now. So we're not too interested in going down the moon landing tree just yet. Reaction control systems would be nice. Struts would be convenient if we're going to heavy lift, which we're probably going to need to do if we're going to do a moon landing soon. We will soon-ish, but for now, this is relatively okay. Stack by couplers, structural panels, this is all relatively unimportant stuff for the moment. Same with aviation. I'm not too concerned about that. But it looks like if we want to get some sort of solar panel, we need probes. So solar panels would be a useful thing to have. Absolutely. Absolutely, that would be great. Launch stability enhancers should not be necessary. Adjustable tubes, not really a thing as of right now. This all looks reasonably fine. RCS would be great if we're going to do, like, docking, but we're not really planning on doing that for the time being. So I think for the moment, we don't really need anything here, which means we're going to take moon landing. That gives us access to the T-800, anyway, as well as the Mark I Explorer and the LT-1 Wallaroos. So we'll research this. That is fine for now. Beyond that, we can just start working our way through these from the cheapest to the most expensive. We'll grab introductory construction, and we can grab struts that will be handy later on. Okay, so let's head over to the VAB. Now, I want to get us an orbital class rocket that we don't have to get out and push for. That would be absolutely wonderful. I don't want to save this. I want to open, and it would be this one. So we'll load that. Excellent. We want to immediately detach this and detach this engine. We want to swap this engine over to be a Terrier Methalox engine. So something along the lines of that. Now, this could easily be a T-800 here, and I think it should be. So let me grab these guys. I guess we have to close this. Yeah, sure. So this could easily be a T800 here. And it should be in terms... We should probably have this be like 2 T800s potentially. We'll see what that does in terms of cost. So that's fine. We need our stacked decoupler here. This goes here. And then a second T800 goes here. We don't need this stacked decoupler at this time. We would then attach this guy here. I'm a little concerned about thrust to weight here. We'll see what that looks like. But at this point, I want to bring this up to quad symmetry, and we'll just do something like that. Very basic, stretching out this rocket a little bit. The major portion of this is getting that Terrier engine. The Terrier engine is a couple of things. A lot lighter than the swivel engine, and also much better with an ISP in the vacuum. 15 additional seconds. So that is great. So at this point, of course, these engines are completely messed up here. We'll need to have this here. That is reasonably fine. This ends up going here. This stage can be eliminated. Okay, what do we got in this stage? 1.5 thrust to weight is actually not bad. That's not bad at all. And then this I want to be in vacuum mode. So we can see with this in vac and this at... Oh, this is in vacuum. This needs to be in atmosphere. 1.31. That's more like what I expected it to look like. So this is a little bit low on its thrust to weight. We could do a couple of things about that. We could heavy lift it. That is an option for sure. We could put on radial decouplers here, and that is the route that we are eventually going to be going for our moon system. So that may not be a bad idea. Let's bring this down to 2 symmetry mode, and that would end up going about here. And then all I do for this is we would put in a pair of T800s here, something like this. And then maybe we would put like T400s down below like that, and then additional swivels. Normally I'd be concerned about cost here, but that doesn't actually matter, right? Because, and I just want to move this guy up just a smidge here. Let's turn off the snapping and put it like there. But normally I'd be concerned about cost here. That's not actually a factor in science mode. So there's no reason not to heavy lift, as far as I'm concerned. We'll just put nose cones on here, and that would be absolutely fine. Now, here's a question. Fuel crossfeed is off. I want fuel crossfeed on these decouplers on, because I want to pull fuel from here first. I don't know if that's going to actually work. We'll find out. Next, we of course need struts. So where is struts in this? Here we go. Struts. Fantastic. And then this is going to go from here to here. That's not necessarily an ideal location, but sure. We can move these independently in KSP2. Exciting. Okay, so we'll do something like that, and then this guy would go here, about like that. So this would be a heavy lift rocket, and we would need to make sure that our delta V is correct, of course. So this guy would fire at the same time as these, right? And then this would go away. This would decouple there. Yes, that looks correct. And this would not be in vacuum mode. This would be in atmosphere mode. Much better thrust to weight, no doubt about that. My question is this going to pull fuel from the outside first and leave the fuel here? Because that's what I want it to do, but we don't have a fuel line, and in KSP1, fuel line would be required for that. Now, I'm not 100% convinced that it's required in KSP2 because I did not immediately see it in the R&D. Let's actually hop over to R&D real quick here. Is there a search option in here? There is not. At any rate, I would expect somewhere in here to be able to see fuel lines if they were a thing in KSP2. We can check in out over here in the medium orbital rockets. Oh, there's fuel lines. Okay, so that's probably going to work the way I expect it to then, which isn't ideal. So we're going to go back into the VAB here. And we are going to launch this thing, but I want to keep an eye on our fuel tanks, right? I don't know what's going on with this workspace here. I guess it's an auto-saved workspace. Whatever. We're just going to launch this thing. This should very, very easily achieve orbit. Very easily. So the real question here is, we've got extra fuel in this center stage, right? So these are still going to detach earlier. And I don't actually want to have these selected. These are still going to detach earlier because they're going to run out of fuel. So fuel crossfeed is on right now. And the question is, does that mean that these tanks will run out of fuel at the same time as these tanks? We need to figure that out. Without access to fuel lines, this will be interesting. Let's go ahead and launch this thing. Although I'm wondering what direction is 90 degree here. This way? Okay, that is noted. That means that we should do a rotational maneuver as we go up here. So, we're going to skip this countdown, and off we go. We're going to immediately rotate this guy over here. That overshot it a bit. To about right here or so. Okay, so we're making our way up here, and this is currently only about 3 kilometers, but I'm keeping an eye on these fuel lines. Note how this oxidizer here, or actually note how they're all keeping even. That's kind of what I expected, to be honest. So all keeping even is fine. It's not necessarily ideal, though. Okay, so we're at 20 kilometer apoapsis. Let's start bringing this guy on down here. We don't have those stabilizers, which is fully expected as well. But we need to be getting horizontal speed. So we're just going to make our way on down here, making a small correction to our attitude. Okay, this thing doesn't really like sitting out here. So I'm just going to hold it here. We should push our apoapsis up a little bit further for sure. So we may just want to lock it to prograde at this time. And this is like 80 kilometers, 90. That's 100 kilometers. I'm going to shut this down, and that is absolutely fine for now. Now, we don't have solar panels on this, so eventually we will run out of electric charge. But note how much we have left over here, right? So I'm guessing that these are all going to run out of fuel evenly, which is not the ideal way for this to go. We want to drain these tanks first, leaving this one full, and then ditch these and run just off of this, ideally. But we're not in that position yet. So, oh, that's very sensitive. So we need to go to the apoapsis here, and we need to do a prograde burn here. That is going to be a fair amount of DV, but that's not shocking. We want to circularize it right about there. Cool. And we're going to align to that node. So we don't have a lot of turn speed here, but that's fine. We are honestly going to make it into orbit on just these heavy lift components. So this is absolutely fine here. No problem whatsoever, even with the inefficiency. That's good. We could potentially do a moon flyby if we wanted to, but I'm not actually going to do that here. We've got some things to do at the KSC. I just wanted to prove that this would work, and it definitely does. So let's get this up into orbit. We are just going to warp on over to this. It's going to be a roughly 100-kilometer orbit, and we'll have plenty of Delta V to bring this back. Jeb will not have to get out and push, and that is ideal. So this is about 20 seconds to the maneuver here. We'll warp a little bit further. Okay, so 4, 3, 2, 1, go. Cool. So this is obviously overkill for a circularization burn, right? No doubt about that. But we're going to run out of juice for this fairly soon. Okay. So that's all fine. And there we go. So we're going to just get circularized here. So these, of course, were slightly unoptimal, but that's okay. No major concerns there. Okay, this should be basically good enough as far as the orbit goes. And this periapsis is 86 kilometers and 120. Yeah, it's not particularly even, but that is absolutely fine. I mean, we could have seen that here. So that's okay. At the periapsis, I want to immediately deorbit this because I want to bring this back. Now that we've proofed this, we've got lots of delta V to, like, we could go to the moon or something with this, and that would be absolutely fine. But I want to bring this periapsis, I want to pin this open if we can. I want to be able to see what this periapsis is. That would be, you know, awfully nice to be able to know what that number is. Okay, can we just pin it open like that? We can't pin it while this is open, which is kind of wild. But okay, I don't actually want to have the radial here. Okay, so I want to just bring this right on down to about 40 kilometers or so should be more than good. Actually, let's try 20 and see how that feels. That should be absolutely safe, and it should be a little bit faster to bring this back. So let's just bring this around. If we're going to go to the moon, of course, we're going to need to have some form of power generation. And that's okay. But let's just warp this on around. Is this going to be coming down in the daytime? Yes, it is, and that is ideal. Cool. So we've got about 30 seconds here. We'll warp a little bit further. Okay. 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. And there we go. We overshot it a little bit. That is fine. 17 kilometers should be a-okay. We've got lots of fuel in this. Unfortunately, we're going to throw some of it away, and that is also okay. So we're just going to separate that, and we're going to go into surface velocity down. So at this point, we're going to warp on forward. Fantastic. So this was a much more successful orbital flight for sure, and we're probably going to, well, we're not going to ditch this test vehicle. We need to put on some science experiments, right? So that'll be absolutely fine. As soon as we hit atmosphere here, which will be right now, we'll snap over to surface velocity minus. There we go. And we'll just start significantly decelerating here. We have a lot of drag on this thing, no doubt about it, and not a lot of mass. So there's going to be a significant amount of aerobraking here. Like, it felt significant at 50 kilometers. Imagine how it's going to feel at 17. No doubt about that. So let's bring this guy right on down. We're just physics warping our way down, and this all looks good for the moment. Yeah, we definitely have a negative periapsis at this point. There's that plasma sheath starting up. Cool. And we're moving at a roughly similar speed as we did before, but we're going down through the atmosphere more aggressively. So this is kind of a limit test, but not really. I'm more feeling out the way that the aerodynamics feels here. And it definitely feels stronger than in KSP-1. No doubt about that. Aerobraking feels more effective. Although this feels about the same, to be honest. So I guess what I should say is high altitude aerobraking feels more effective. No, this is definitely more effective. We're at 13 kilometers right now. We're going at 200 meters per second. Yeah. Let's get that shootout, and apparently we need to deploy it this way. I was mashing spacebar, but this doesn't appear to work, so we'll just have to remember to deploy our shoots like that. When we're coming down in 4x time warp, that feels very spicy, but it's not actually spicy at all when the parachute is out, so it's completely okay. I don't expect to get significant science out of this, for the record. This was mostly just testing out a couple of things about A, aerodynamics, and B, how that fuel flow system worked. So with that in mind, this active vessel is indeed recoverable, and I currently believe that we don't actually have anything that we can do here. So I want to just recover this vessel, and we'll confirm that recovery. That is all fine. Beautiful. So let's go on back to R&D here. We're at 6 science. Yeah, we didn't actually get any science there. Okay, I want to head directly into the VAB. And in the VAB, we want to do something. What do we want to do? Well, let's see. Science. we want to put on a science junior. So I want to open up this guy. We'll load you. And I want to put that right here. So the science junior is a little bit smaller, I think, than it was in KSP1. That should not necessarily be there. Okay, we do need a decoupler here, though. And a heat shield. Okay, what just happened? I think I broke it. Okay, that's fine. We're going to put in a heat shield. We're going to put in a heat shield right there. And then we're going to put in a decoupler here. We're making changes to this anyway, so breaking it a little bit is fine. So all we need to do now is save this guy. And we're going to put it on the pad. That said... Oh, wait. Okay, this isn't a heavy lift variant. That's fine. We can remake it. It's not a big deal. I'm going to put this on the pad, but we're not actually going to launch it. Because, yeah, we can perform an experiment. And that is what we're going to do. So, we're going to run our environment survey. There we go. And now that must be returned to the KSC. That's fine. We've got the samples here, which are worth 5 science. And in theory, the environment data here, which I guess we can transmit back, although I don't think we should, because that electric charge is not going to be enough. So let's just grab this then. We could actually EVA here, and let's see what happens if we run a surface survey status. Invalid research location. Okay, so that seems fine for the moment. Now, let's recover this vessel, and that earns us some science points, 16 in total, so we earned 10 total there. Yes, that looks good. We'll head back to the KSC, and we need to go to mission control, because we've now officially finished this. We attached the Science Junior and performed an environment survey on Kerbal. It completed previously, but we had not actually satisfied this. So now we've satisfied it, and we'll get that 25 science. Okay. So that's all good. Thanks, science. And we also got the buoyancy test. This is something we actually did do. So we'll submit that. That gets us 40 science as well. So next up, of course, is moon or bust. And that is establish an orbit around the moon with an apoapsis less than 2,400 kilometers and a periapsis greater than 60 kilometers. To be honest, we can do that with the vehicle that we just built. So this is absolutely fine. We do have a lot of science available, but we really don't need it for right now. Honestly, we have everything that we need up until a moon landing. And that's probably what we're going to look to do. We'll establish this orbit, and we'll complete that. And we'll see if we can get a mission for a moon landing, but I'm going to create a moon lander in the next episode. That is going to be our next mission here, is landing on the moon. We're not going to build our base on the moon yet. We are going to get there. We are going to get there. But for now, a landing is first. You can leave your offerings to the engagement gods in the form of likes, comments, subscribes, and bell ringings, and a very special thank you to all of the channel members for making this video possible, including ALS Gamer, Shadowwolf, Atala, Ali Lee, Dark Horse, Upper Cumberland Gamers, Nick Smarty, Dimitri H, Punching the Microphone, Sakaman12UK, Kentogan, and all the rest. And of course, you. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to support the channel, you can click the join button down below the video, and as always, I will see you all next time.